Hello, everybody, and welcome to today's lesson. So glad you're here. I have an amazing amount of things to tell you, um, in the fact that I've stumbled across a couple things in the last few days that have literally blown my mind about the fretboard, things that have been hiding in front of me, and I've just never more stuff that I've never noticed before, and I'm like, and I'm this channel guy here. I study this stuff and look for all these correlations, and I came across one that's so novel and right there in front of my face that I never put all the dots together. And I'll be breaking this up, then all this information up into two lessons, and um, because the interesting thing was this, by mere chance, the next thing that I discovered went right along with this lesson that I had created for you guys a couple of days before. At least the the sheets here, the instructional graphs. Here, I created that for this idea for this lesson, and then I've discovered more stuff that plugs right into this. It's so awesome! I can't wait. Okay, so stay tuned for part two, and I'm sure watch to the end. There's going to be maybe some great things. I don't know. This is, I believe, important knowledge to have. Is this going to create new music for you after you watch this lesson? You'll have to see. I'm not so sure about that. It's going to be like, not going to have like amazing implications tomorrow, but it could. Um, okay, this is going to be this what this is going to help you in aspects of blues, playing the blues and understanding some of the types of blues jams there are out there, especially when they're concerning dominant seventh chords. Okay, this is going to help you with the modes, playing any mode, anywhere, anytime, um, even probably easier than the last few methods I've had, which is really the same method, although I found a way to even streamline what you could visualize on the fretboard to get the results. So, results being just being able to, okay, being able to compose in modes, um, in a band setting, being able to, and you'll be ahead of probably most of the bass player may not even know what the hell you're talking about. So in that regard, if you're not in a band of other, there's no keyboard player, well, then this stuff might be for you only when you compose music. But if you're in a band setting and people are like, well, this thing, hey, a bass player walks up and says, I created this thing. It's a Lydian kind of vamp. It's I'm pretty sure the key is A flat Lydian, or they didn't even know what it was, but you could hear it and you realize it's A flat Lydian, and you want to, because how could you realize that? You can put it to your guitar, you can play shapes and go, oh, I know where that plugs in, boom, and that's what this will help you with. Okay, next thing, the guitar is now facing the other way because overnight I was hit on the head with a rock, and now I play right-handed. Okay, I'm lying. I was trying to copy Jimi Hendrix all along for, it just, I needed something. My guitar playing sucks. My channel here mostly sucks, and I needed to look cooler, so I was trying to be like, you know, I'm left-handed like Jimi Hendrix. Okay, no, I'm lying again. I just didn't know how to flip the camera. I didn't even think about that. And I do want this to be like you're sitting with a teacher, and this is actually what you would see: my hands facing this way, the bridge of my guitar that way, the neck of my guitar that way, and or the headstock of my guitar that way. So it was brought up to me by by a comment from a subscriber. Thank you very much, and I appreciated the comment. That alerted me to the fact that my camera was 180 off, and I thought, well, and they were like, well, you're using a front-facing camera. Well, you're making an assumption I was using a cell phone camera, and if I was, I'd turn it around to show you my equipment here. But it's just a Logitech webcam, um, and what is it, a 930E, if you must know, and it's just a cheap one, right? And um, I didn't realize that. Well, actually, it dawned on me later. I said, well, there's probably a setting. I just get try to avoid getting. I'm hesitant to just get in and do things on these all this modern newfangled stuff because all of a sudden, next thing you know, I'm in for 2 hours on a whole host of new issues. But luckily for me, I found the right places to click. Next thing you know, I was in camera properties and found flipping it, or it wasn't even there. It was right in the OBS settings. Flipped the thing vertical 180 degrees. So for some reason, it started out preferring the other vertical rotation. So, and I never picked it up. So I'm glad you said something because now we are right-handed, and it's more like you guys are at a real lesson. All right, so here we are. Now I wish I had the timestamp. That's one thing I need to see if I can get available so that I could say, all right, here we are, 3 minutes and 50 seconds in. So I could tell you to. Well, it wouldn't make any sense because I would have to have known this. I could. I don't know. I don't know. I'm just talking about putting a fast forward thing in a suggestion so you can get past the rambling and get right into what you're here for today, which is this musical information. So let's go on the new right-handed guitar. Proper, true to reality right-handed guitar. Just like you guys. And not like Jimi Hendrix. Okay. So that being said, what we got today, as per the title that I think is going to be I'm putting in this lesson, is the 7/3 rail in your guitar. And you're going to see why I call this the 7/3 rail when something unique happens to it in a little bit. But basically, it stays the 7/3 rail even if your root is on the A string or fifth string, right? So that is kind of weird how could it do that when intervals are always locked at a certain position on your fretboard. Well, it's because they flip, but let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. So the 7/3 rail, that what this means is we're considering the you need a chord, okay, and perhaps you want to know the most important notes of that chord, to focus on where to begin, or perhaps even begin and end, or notes to target on beats 1 and 3, which you want the best notes for your to either go by or be on that beat. It's going to be the 3 or the 7 in most practical applications. So, or circumstances, maybe is a better word. So, but which 7 and which 3 you need is unique to whatever chord is being suggested. And you need a quick visual aid on where do these choices lie. Is it, a condensed cluster that's quick and easy to navigate? Yes, it is. And you just need someone to show you it all. So I'm here to do that today. All right, and so you can see here that I have the D and G string highlighted for this 7/3 rail. So you can always find your 7 and 3s. What this implies is that anytime you have a root note of a chord, that means the lowest note, the tonic that you're implying, is it a C, you want to be playing in G, whatever the case may be. Or start thinking in inversions and getting really deep into other rabbit holes. Yes. But whatever the case may be, you want at some point to say, okay, I'm playing in X note. So let's say C sharp. Okay. And then, or C, or B, or A. Your 7 and 3 will always be on this string. You'll have a choice of 7s here on the D string and a choice of 3s here. A happy 3, major third, or a minor third. So that was the 5th and 6th frets of the G string to make the minor third and major third. So that's how our chart will work today. We're going to go through each of these chords and give you a little information about them. And the intervals I chose to focus on today while leaving the other ones out for a few reasons. It's because once you identify the 7 and 3, just think about it. If I want to play forward of the 7, I'm eventually going to get to a root note. So I got 7, 1, 2 pretty much available. And then from playing behind that 7, I got 6 to 5. Sorry. And then from the 3 behind it, I've got the 2s of ahead of it. I can get up to the 5, usually practically. So you really have all your available choices of improv notes in an octave range available around the 7 and the 3. Your targets, twin targets. So that being said, there's a couple other advantages of this here. It leaves these bottom strings open, and this is what we'll cover on a future lesson, to these other choices or chord extensions that are being suggested or you want to suggest. Be it the 13th is somewhere up here, the 9th is somewhere up here, and the 11th can be all approximated by choosing a note from this area where the cursor is circling. They're all in there, and they're all nearby. We'll just learn about where they are later when we want to talk about extensions. So awesome. Now, many times some of these shapes are all, you may already know these as some jazz grips. That's what I would call them. So instead of like a cowboy chord like this, the barred finger and then the what we call the E shape. Great, nice full sounding chord, but in comping, in a situation of, and this is the definition that we'll hold for, or we'll use today for the people who are so new, they've never heard of this word comping. There's a situation where you're in a band, there's a lot of musicians, there's a lot of instruments, there's some horns, there's some piano, it's jazzy, whatever. Let's just kind of say that. We're not gonna immediately jump into jazz. I don't think I'm talking to an audience I believe I'm talking to an audience that's approaching, trying to push towards jazz, but really has no idea yet because that's basically my journey here that you're following. But anyways, so the comping, you're in this big band situation, and there's a lot of competing instruments, and it's your time to comp. You don't want a big, thick chord. You don't need all this information coming out of your instrument. It's already being suggested by probably in what the piano is doing, what the horns are doing, and of course, you're trying to support what the soloist is doing at the time without stepping over them either. So chances are you want a sparse chord with just the root, the third, the 7th, and then what I'm showing here is these jazz grips do just that. And this red note here is the 5 that's usually included in these jazz grips. Today, I'm not going to show it for clarity, but you could kind of consider that this is basically an optional note you can put in for that more clear sound. If some of these sound a little ambiguous to you when you play a root 7 and a 3, for example, this is we're going to talk about how this first one here is the way to basically emulate or support be in conjunction with a major 7th chord. but that sounds a little sparse. But if you put it with the fifth, now it sounds like a ringy, jangly something in jazz that's not too crowded and too overpopulated with guitar sound. You know, whatever. Um, you see, it sounds so good, you can just kind of slide it around without thinking about keys or making sense with it, and it sounds kind of good, even with a little bit of got a little drive on the sound today. Okay, so the fifth is there. So the takeaway here, so we can move on, is the uh, root and fifth are always right there, and that fifth is always above the one. Now this little five is above the one. You might a great question for you to ask is, how does this guy remember all that stuff? Is this another one of these, guys doesn't tell you everything and he remembers all this stuff and you don't know? No, we're gonna go over that. That's another thing that this teaching, this whole unit here is going to do. It's going to show you this um, very amazing, I would say, row of numbers that are going in two different directions on your guitar that help you. And it's like a whole row of numbers, and it's totally, because of what it represents, it's totally easy to remember, and it really can guide you on a lot of musical things. Just wait. That's your, teaser to wait for the end of the lesson, because that'll be coming up here, if not in this lesson, in the next lessons that we make. All right, so sheet number 2 here. Let's get into the method of the madness here. I've color coded. This is this right here. This 677. You'll see that for the intervals that I did include, I included the 6, because that is kind of working. It's a common, not as common as the 7th in chords, but it's still a functional player that you should be, I think any good player should be aware of, and you're going to soon see why. Now, you can see here the color coding I'll be using is listed up in this box on every sheet. So let's move on. All right, so as you can see here, I've got the 7 and the 3rd. This is what lights up in my brain. If someone says major chord, I already know from my jazz grip with the 5 that we just went over a few minutes ago. But I might know now for comping, I've got a 7 and a 3 there. So I was, instead of going from the 3, I was going to the sharp 4. I started going into Lydian there. And how did I know that? Because all this stuff starts clicking like that. But anyways, what I was showing you is that you can go right from this understanding to then playing a corresponding melody that works with this stuff, and you have more freedom, I think, especially if you can think of a rhythm in your head, if you can start getting used to tapping your feet and think of playing to the 7, playing to the 3. It's not that easy, but that's kind of a starter way you could do this. Play your lines 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 3. You don't have to go. You will eventually, to get the hang of what you're probably hearing, like I'm hearing. It's about the being precise on putting it in the pocket, which means lining up your solid tones, your targets um, with the beat of the music, the rhythm, specifically beats 1 and 3, maybe perhaps in some situations 2 and 4, but um, and everything else on the and beats, the off beats. So as I understand it, basically, this can get you this understanding, and you'll kind of know why when you're playing this, you maybe don't want to target this note because you are functionally changing what you're doing. You're making a completely different suggestion in the middle of your line. Would be like make changing subjects in the middle of your sentence and not making any sense. So so now that being said, it doesn't mean that some these are out of the question because they can be used as little tricks. Like for example, the flat third with the third. If I was playing this, if I want to take the elegance out of it and give it some humor, you can see approaching the third from the flat third is kind of a cool hip sound. Moving on. So anytime you hear major seventh, boom, there you go. Put this in your visualization. And it works because if you hear minor seventh, all you got to do is move that idea down to there and you've got your flat seven and flat third. Hey, look, how can you remember all this stuff? How do you know that maybe you're saying out there, well, how do I know a minor chord has a flat seventh? How do I know all this stuff? How would I know that? Well, it's pretty easy. Study your chords is the easy way for me to say it, but for you guys, here's the information, the fact, and that's Before I tell you the fact, here, let me tell you the fact. My thoughts move faster than my mouth. Um, the seventh is every minor chord. Not every single one. It's not out of the question. But for what you're thinking of, you're going to put the minor seven as congruent with the minor chord because the major seventh is kind of working a little bit like minor third and major third. It doesn't define the chord, major or minor, like thirds, but the flatted seventh goes better with the flatted third, and the major seventh goes best with the major third. But you can put the flatted seventh with the major third because, as you can see, sometimes the third likes interplay from the flat third. All right, so there is not the chord I was looking for, but this one. We're here up on I don't know why I chose C sharp. Let's move to something a little more logical here and just go down to C to make it easy for beginners. Hear it with a fifth. Here's all three. So I use my, whoops, so where are my 3 fingers here? Whoa, camera. To play all 3. I'm finger picking. C minor sound. Now, soon we're going to learn how to identify how to put that chord with a mode and make it like locked into a mode. However, in this particular version of root, flat 7, flat 3, and 5, it's ambiguous. It's just a minor chord. And this minor chord could have a group of extensions on it, namely, it could have a flat 6, it could have a regular 6, it could have a flat, well, a flat 6 and a flat, was that a flat 2? I think so. Anyways, notes that um, this could be Dorian, this could be Phrygian, This could be um, Aeolian, natural minor. All right, not going to tangent on how you can go there from there, but and it's the same thing. You're playing a lead um, from there is possible because you can grab the same, notes before and behind these target notes, and chord tones, bend away, chord tone, back to the root, away, away, root, away, chord tone, root. Um, but what I wanted to show you was, I don't know if I can figure this out on the fly, but let's see here. There's a way you can get to okay, that comes up in a later lesson. I was trying to think to myself, well, how can I explain quickly how to take this? You could take this into, oh, it's pretty easy actually. You could, Dorian. Well, let me get back to C again and start again. So, C with the minor shape down here. Dorian. I'm using a pentatonic framework with the right gut notes in there, the two notes placed inside properly. Very easy. It's all over my this channel here if you don't know it yet. Aeolian. Character note. Character note. This and this together. Only Aeolian. Let's do the only Phrygian. See, it's the same pentatonic framework. Here's the shape, the bar. I'm on the back wall of my normal blues pentatonic. So when I play this note, I know these two notes are going to be Phrygian, move up one. We're going to take the sound, we're going to raise it to from darker to lighter with to the middle with Aeolian, to full on brighter sad. All right, so Dorian. How to nail those sounds. It's all basically where the plus sign is, and these four notes right here, among the copy notes of it, are going to define taking that chord into those three modes. But there's a total another way to do this that we're going to visualize in the next lesson. So sheet number 4 of like 10 sheets. So we got to go. Making a dominant 7th chord. So you see you got the chord names listed up here. Dominant 7th. Move that square out of there. It's a dominant 7th chord. What do we need for dominant? We're probably going to need a flat 7, but we're going to need a dominant 7th as part of the major family. So we're going to need a major 3rd. And there it is. There's a shape that we need to think when it comes to from B for some reason. The yeah, dominant seventh chord. Now, this tritone, this relationship right here, very, very, very special relationship. This, you and I had heard this so many times, and I'm finally able to put it into perspective. The importance of this tritone, the as far as how it relates to modern music, or how basically um, how it went from being, a very, cautiously used interval, I think, more so in the not so common um, use for its musical convention in classical music, but it is the story, or the just the propellant of this jazz is, I believe, at this moment, this tritone interval. And it is the only interval, by the way, that repeats in both directions. So in other words, you'll see it's going at an angle this way. Will be very important to know coming up, that this interval, I just played in a row there. I played the same two notes over and over. In this row, it goes flat seventh, third, flat seventh, third, flat seventh, third, or whatever intervals you place it over. If I played based on a root, I could be playing, as you can see here, a six and a flat third would also make a tritone interval. 4-7-4, right? So that being said, the tritone here, this shape and the way it's simply movable, is going to be very instrumental in helping you quickly navigate to certain ideas. I'm going to show you how it's so helpful. And okay, we'll let this cat out of the bag too. That an interesting I just found from a lesson, and guy's name's Cameron Coffee, I think is his name, and had this extremely amazing, like, enlightening video out there where I could grasp what he was talking about. We all think about music theory differently, and so of course I was taking what he said and going, well, I could see how he's right, but I don't necessarily think like that. And it got me to start thinking about the concept he was talking about. And when I did, I thought, hey, I need to go over to my fretboard and check that out. And I was like, hey, that I never realized what he said. Even though I don't view it the same angle he said it, he said this thing about the tritone that was true. And I was like, oh, that I found it out for myself. I'm like, yeah, he's totally right. That is 100% true. Not only is it weird that I never saw it before, but I'm like, the implications to this seem like they're going to be huge. And the further I went with it, the more I was like, wow, I can't believe this tritone. So, like, for example, if I'm on a root note here, we did this the other day with the fretboard cluster video or something like that. If I go this way, it's a major third. Now, if I go backwards in the other direction, it's the same sonic group. All right, a root to a major third. But if this is being considered the root, that's going to be now behind the root, which is there's a polar opposite to this major third, which is the sharp fifth, or flat six, if you want to say that. So, and that works that way for all the other intervals. If I go above the root, I got a fifth. If I go below the root, I got a fourth, and it keeps on changing from there. Another very important thing to keep in your mind: a fifth, a 1, 5, 1, 4. But just say, yeah, I'll remember that. Um, so in these directions, there's always a change in the interval idea or name for good reason. But tritone is the only one that just repeats like that. Now, the only time it doesn't link in a perfect line is when you're crossing over from the G to B string. We know we have to ship everything up one toward the bridge of the guitar. So we go skip a fret, and you can hear the same octave. All right. So that being said, um, hold on to your horses with this 7 and third. It's really going to rock us later on in the lesson here. I think what we'll do is move on. Here it is with the fifth. Maybe sounds more familiar. Now, we want to also hold in our minds this comes up in blues. There is a version of a 1-4-5 blues, the 1 chord, the 4 chord, the 5 chord, where they're all dominant 7th chords. It's doable in music, but it does mean that you're changing keys. But it doesn't mean that this has to be hard or confusing if you know the geometry of your fretboard. And what I found is makes it so simple. I am out of my mind with how simple it is. So anyways, that'll be coming up. You're like, enough of the damn teasers, right? So there it is at A. But anyway, so for the blues 1, now here we'll go to the 5th string for our root for the 4. But notice, and then for the 5. As like a quick showcase of the 1-4-5 with dominant 7th chords. The thing to take away is to notice where that they all have that tritone because they're dominant 7th chords. Every dominant 7th will have a tritone, and there it is. Anytime you see this shape in a chord, it is the tritone. Okay, here it is up here, and then for this chord. Now notice that all these tritones also happened on the 7 or on the D and G strings, our 7 and 3rd rail. On 2 of these chords that you'll figure out later, the 7 and 3rd flip-flopped. How can that happen? Because the tritone, and I'll tell you that really quick. If I start here on the 5th fret of the E string, okay, at the A note, right? And I play the tritone. So it's going to be A, E flat, A, E flat, A, E flat. Now, if I want to continue that up the fretboard, all I need to do is go to the top, go to the E string again, exactly on the same fret that I ended up on. So we ended up here at the E flat. So I go up to the E flat. Now I go E flat, A, E flat, A. So remember down there it was A, E flat. Okay, on the same string. Here it is E, A flat. Or E, E flat, A. So what that tells you is that these are definitely that's where the flip flop, the ability for the guitar to geometry to do that is coming from that. Okay. Now we have some less usual chords, but ones I think you still should know nonetheless. This would be a major 6 chord, or not that this necessarily is a major 6 chord, but this is what, if someone was comping, if I needed to comp over this chord, maybe this is what I would do. Let's say it switched from a dominant 7 to the 6th. You see, it sounds kind of musical, and this is where those good melodies and cool things that you hear is the kind of thing it's coming from, is working these geometries, working these intervals, seeing what does what, and just kind of knowing where you are in the fretboard and making it easy for yourself to know this stuff. All right. That's kind of a cool sound, and that's because it's got this nice strong interval pairing in it, the root 5. That's not the root of our chord, but taken separately, we've got that kind of powerful harmony there. All right, now let's switch over to the minor 6, which is going to be probably a little more common. Now listen how it sounds played with the dominant 7th chord. Now, doesn't that make you want to have melodies in your head right away? And you also probably think, I've probably heard that somewhere before. That sounds common enough. That is sounding common enough. That has got to be in 100 songs that I don't know. But now, that movement there, by the way, is the core of what is coming up when we learn some new things, all this stuff I've been teasing. Okay, so that brings us to, I believe, the end of the 6th string root. Let's move on to the 5th string root that still has our 3 and 7. Now, what I want you to pay attention to is, okay, we never changed our sheet. There we were on the minor 6. Oh, I duplicated the sheet here. Well, okay, so minor 6, minor 7. All right, okay, I did one more here. Anyways, one more really quick. Yeah, we forgot about that yellow square, and you might be asking earlier, hey, why didn't that yellow square have anything listed in it? Because I didn't really want to nail, I didn't want to have to explain. It was gonna come up. It's common enough, but it's got a little bit of explaining to do. I didn't want to explain it then. But so what I put in here is the 9. You're like, well, where the hell does a 9 come from there? I thought we only had notes 1 through 7. Okay, so after the 7 is the root. After the root, if you keep on going up the octave, instead of kind of calling these new extensions way up the, and from another octave, the next octave up, or the octave even above that, perhaps, they add kind of their own newer flavor to the chord. They do change the quality a bit, so they're given a new name. So what more logical way to do it than to continue the numbers? So basically, if you were counting after the 7, the repeating root note is number 8. So since it's a repeating root note, it's not really going to flavor the chord or do anything. So it's not really just considered an octave, octo, 8, right? But now from there, the flat 2, if you added that, flat 9. This regular 2 is the regular 9. Now the thirds tend to always stay thirds, so we don't consider those. We skip the major and minor aspect. Is so strongly associated with that function. Those are left alone. You skip over to the 4, that's known as the 11. You can sharpen and flat it, choosing the notes before and after. Skip the 5s, also so strong that they stay 5s. You move on to from there you go to the 13s. So anyway, so now you can see why this is a 9. This was what's before a flat 3. The pair of 2s, the flat 2 where the plus sign is and the regular 2 where the plus sign is. So we have, therefore, this 9 here. So if you were going to make a 6-9 chord, you might go, all right. So we had that straight up and down shape. We had 7-3, major, 7, minor 7, and 6-9. Let's play that with a 5. You can see it's got its own kind of cool sound. It's got a whole bunch of description you could give to that sound. Definitely not, standard major, but it sounds happier. All right. I All right. Let's move on. Moving to the 5th string now. Notice the blue and the gray. Blue on G, gray on D. If we consider our 5th string root, that flips. The G string is now our 7, and the D string is now our 3rd. So, let's get started with that. And for reference, I don't know if I did this earlier. Oh, yeah, I guess I was supposed to show you everything on A. That's when I made this, and then I put the letters of the E string on the um, picture here to remind myself to tell you that, remember, for the beginners, these shapes are slidable. So if somebody wants an F6-9 chord, okay, I'm going to remember this shape and put my root on the F. I know my E string. I know my F is there. I could play this. That's a little dark, a little deep, so we're going to go. I think my intonation on this guitar is not that great up here. So let's say we want it on C. A C6-9, a G6-9, a D6-9, a D flat, so on and on and on from there. How about in A sharp, minor 7, A sharp major 7, and yeah, on from there. Okay, so when we get to the 5th, see the blue and gray shift. Yep. And our first chord of business here has got its own new shape. If we wanted a major 7th now, I'm on the A string. So if I wanted a D, I'm going to go to the 5th frets, right? Because that's where D is. A, B, C, D, D. If I want an F, G, A, B. I think that went out of tune here. I don't know. Okay. Let's see. It sounds a little better. And that's why that shape sounds so friendly. You're playing a root, a 3rd, a 7. I mean, did you ever like grab some of these shapes on your guitar and you go, "Oh, that one sounds okay," but you're like, "Huh, wonder what that is," and then you just kind of like, "Well, I guess I'll remember it," and you think you might come back to it, and maybe you never do. It's way better if you know, okay, that's a root. What am I playing here? Well, I know that shape of my next string. That's a major 3rd, so this must be a major chord. Okay. Now this is a 7 here because that's always below a 3. There's the 5 that we know it's still the same. Oh no, 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 no. What is this note down here? This is not no longer the 5. This is the a 2. Yeah, that's a 2. So that could be sort of considered a 9. Okay, because it's existing higher than the third, so that's going to be kind of heard as a 9, I believe. All right, real pleasing sound, of course. Major 7th, but you have to remember its own shape-like thing here. Now we've got, I'm gonna make some adjustments to my screen here. Okay, 4 more sheets to go. The regular minor 7th chord, I'm going to remember this one like I remember the chord intro to Dogs from Pink Floyd. There's that 9 again. All right. So that, I'm going to consider that. Someone says, I'm kind of on my D string. I'm thinking about my A string here, and someone says G minor 7. I'm going to grab that. I might grab this. Or I might know that if I'm down here, this is where I'm going to play. And if I'm up here, this is what I'm going to target. And these choices will kind of reflect, on one hand, if you don't want to be a music theory guy, or you just want to just be purely creative without, let's say this, forgetting about music theory, yes or no, just thinking do you want to be creative or not, purely creative, without thinking about anything, yeah, you can come up with these melodies then based on your mood. You don't have to know what scale it's all coming from, but it is helpful to know. Maybe that's what suited your fancy. Just because they're not the commonly associated or most congruent scale with that chord shape or selection of chord tones doesn't mean it's wrong. It might fit what you're doing. So that's where people are trying to say that music theory is not rules. It's not telling you that this has to be played that way or something playing it another way is wrong. It's just saying these are these sonic choices. You want this sonic sound, these are the choices you make to get there. Okay. Moving on. The right here, we got this chord. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm so used to playing that shape on these strings. A different chord set altogether. But anyways, you've got your root, a third, and a 7th. So what do we got? Well, we know if I choose this note, what's that? Well, I know this is E. That's got to be F. So we're on F, and the shape is here, so that's a major third. And the next shape is here. That is the flatted 7th. Because in this, I know this diagram in my head. That's what helps me know all this when I'm free forming. I'm out in the wild, and I don't have notes in front of me. If I'm going to grab one of these chords, I'm going to know like, okay, here's my root. My 7ths are here. My third choices are here. They work in a 4-note stretch where the root is going to be there. Dominant 7th. Now that's what I was talking about with the blues. So here with the blues, maybe we have a, let's do a 1-4-5 in the key of C. So C is the 1, 4 is F, 5 is G. So we have C, F, G, as predicted, because we know 1-4-5 works in an L shape, just the same way 6-2-3 does. All right, so how can we manage the blues that's changing keys, what happens if we try to play all seventh chords there? Well, here's what happens. With that seventh, all the 7 and 3s are on the rail in the middle of the guitar, but they do switch during the song, but it doesn't really, we don't have to think about that. Oh, here's a blue swing. Four, one. I messed up. Oh, I'm playing a 6 chord. Sorry. I knew something was wrong. Starting again. Margot's mistake. Mind's Eye channel. Okay. One, 4, 1, 5, 1, 5, 1. Anyways, what I wanted to show is that on this, to pay close attention to this little tritone here. Every chord has one. So we know there's all dominant 7th chords. Now look at what happens when I play this chord. I've got this tritone. When I've got this chord playing, the tritone moved down a half step from the root. Now what happens if I play the 5th? Well, the tritone is a half step up from the original root C tritone dominant 7th chord. So blues is really going something. But what I meant was 1 chord, 4 chord, 1 chord, 5 chord, 1 chord, 4 chord. I don't know. Not good with turnarounds there, as you can see, but anyways, point being, there's this weird short tritone movement that is coming up again and again and again in totally different subjects. This little tritone movement happens in the blues. It's happening in modes. It's just amazing where it all happens, and even look for it in your comping where try to narrow down chord movements in songs to see where your tritones might just be moving really close together. And that being said, because you can see how it happens from chords from 1 to 4 to 5, and they're all right next door to each other. You can take that into I'll go over this in another lesson, but here's a teaser for that. If I know the scale shape I can turn this into, and it's within a pentatonic framework. Now when this chord comes up, I'm targeting a new note, but I'm not consciously so focused on that note as I am the master shape, which is now you could consider this tritone exists in what we've referred to in other lessons as the magic box. And that magic box where it sits in Phrygian, the Phrygian pentatonic framework. Now the 5, you switch that over to the Dorian. I did that all in one pentatonic framework by knowing where the third and sevenths plugged in. Um, Not having to think about this note, not that note, just thinking about the larger, easy to remember shapes. And we'll plug all that in another lesson. The 3 and the 6 are kind of similar. There you go. If you needed a 3 and a 6. What if you needed a flat 3-6 chord? That's the same as playing this. All right, last sheet here. And this shape again. Oh, I was going to say, did we just go over that? Here I was showing you, I made another sheet to show the 1, 4, 5 I was talking about. So this I could have pulled up at the, I guess my plan was to eventually wrap up with that magical, amazing blues information about the 1, 4, 5 in A, D, and E if we were doing that. All right, so yeah, the cool new way to comp really quick, or not. That was like maybe a jumble of words there. To solo really quick, um, from your comping, right from your comping ideas, which I think is really where you want to be. You want to just be boom right out of the gate, no thinking, no heavy lifting, should I say, to do. You still gotta. There's things that you want to have your head in the game on, of course, and things to think about, but you know what I'm saying. There's your master pattern for the 5-string root, by the way. So you've got, I should have went over this first, is the big hokey poke. The 7 and the 3s are stacked, but they're shifted over. The 3s exist behind the root, the 7s exist below the root, and once the, obviously the lower of the 7-3 rail there. And of course, on the other side of your 7th, you got your 6th. So let's see, a 6. Well, I don't want to challenge myself here. I was going to go for a 6-9 chord here, but you know how I would find that? First, I was thinking, oh, wait a minute, I'm on the spot. I'm live on a lesson, and I didn't exactly plan for that. Now I got to think about it. All right. So that's what you think when you're put on the spot in a live gig. Oh my gosh, what do I do? Look, it's this. All of a sudden, I'm like, well, wait a minute. Why would I worry? I'm going to take the flat third here. I know there's a 2 right here, but that's not the 2 I want. I want the 2 an octave from there. So I'm going to go an octave from right here. Once I found a 2, I just need the octave. I want to put it up here. So the octave is skip 2 frets, skip a string. So I know my 9 is going to be right here. So if I wanted a 3, 6, 9, it's going to be like this. Now you got a major third in there, and a 6 and a 9, with the root on the C. That would be 6, 9, 5. So here there's no third in there, but it still sounds happy enough, and it has the 5 in there. I kind of almost like it without an identifying third. Now here it is an F with the third. That's a 6, a 9, and a 3 instead of a 5. And you can see the relationship there. Both this, a C, 6, 9. Now with the 5, it's a little bit of a tough interval there in there, but I think it still works. The relationship between that and the F. All right, before I drag this lesson out too much longer without any rambling, I'm going to end it here, and stay tuned on the next one. I want to show you how we'll take the this tritone business and be able to understand, well, the tritone is the character notes. Every scale, basically, every major scale has a tritone interval, one tritone interval. And it's between the root and the flat fifth of no, it's between the where the hell is it? I don't know. It's between the 7 and the 1. Sorry. If you're considering like, C major. Go to C, that's the B, no, or I'm sorry, yeah. Go to the 7, that's the B, and the F is the 4. It's between the 7 and the 4, not the 7 and the 1. 7 and the 1 is a semitone. Okay. So every major scale has one of these, and it's the big thing that helps you get to resolve. It's what pulls you to resolve from G dominant 7th to C as home. But on top of that, it's the character notes of every mode of the major scale. So believe it or not, F and B in the key of C, F and B are the defining notes that are going to help you take a D root. And if I add the F and B to that chord, wherever that may be, I'm insinuating Dorian. You can see how those notes take on that characteristic. These are the notes of C major, but they take on that characteristic Dorian sound, not only because you're playing the D root while you're playing the scale, but you've got those characters, the unique characters of the Dorian scale, ringing out. How do you know they're character notes? Well, you can find those by locating the shape, the what's called the Dorian shape. And going right down here and seeing how this part of the shape has for pentatonic framework of the major pentatonic blues box. And it has select gut notes. Primarily this one is basically you ask yourself, what's different from Aeolian? Aeolian goes. Now Dorian's got this note. So that's a character note. That should be a B. Well, we're on the 12th fret of the B string. Hey, we found our B. Now the F is on the flat third of D. The chord tone of D, insinuating that, see, if it was just about a root note and a major sixth, there is a scale somewhere that could have this interval. Let's see here. Do 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 do. Yeah, there's a lot of scales that could have that. If it was just about that character note, well, there's a couple scales, so you gotta want to eliminate that scale. The only minor scale that can have that interval, or that will have that interval in the major scale, is the only minor was Dorian. So if you elucidate minor by choosing the flat third instead of the identifier of the major third, if you choose the flat third, then you have something that is strongly suggesting Dorian. And so that alone is going to be the primer for the fact that this tritone, as identifier notes, it works for Dorian, Lydian, just F and B and C will work for the identifier for all the 7 modes in the key of C. It'll be different notes, but it'll work as the identifier, whatever the tritone is. So if I'll pick a random, all right, I went to G flat. Well, I went to G. Let's make it G flat to make it harder. So there's the tritone in this scale. And what are the notes? B. Huh, we're not on B and F again, are we? Huh? What the hell did I just do? What? That's got its own weird implications, but how can that can't be real? F sharp, G flat. There's the tritone of F and B. That's crazy. Well, there is some quite unique relationship between the key of, let's see if that's part of the flippening here. No, I think that's more frets away than 2s, then 3s, and 4s. That's a tritone away. Yeah, I should know that. That's right there. That is a tritone away. Anyways, boy, I just found something that demands some studying. If I switch to a scale that's a tritone away, it shares the same tritone. Huh. Okay, anyways, doesn't make any difference for us now, but that was pretty random. So let's choose for better effect here. Let's choose E. There's our tritone. So what do we have? What's the note before E? We have a D sharp and we have a A. D sharp and A. This, a D sharp and A, will be the character notes of every mode in the key of E. So E Ionian, F sharp Dorian, G sharp Phrygian, A Lydian, B Mixolydian, C sharp Aeolian, D sharp Locrian, and E Ionian. Okay, I'm going to leave you guys with that. Have a great day. Hope this lesson was worth your time. like and subscribe. Leave suggestions that may improve the channel, right? And thank you for watching. As always, we'll see you on the next lesson. Hopefully coming up soon. Maybe I'll make it right now. Oh, and stay awesome because you're awesome.